so much has happened this year. I've mentioned before, both my kids graduated from college. Rod went and lived and worked in Spain for 5 months, and I completely reinvented my business and in many ways myself this year. And that got me thinking about this idea of the joys and the challenges of a fresh start after 50 in whatever way is meaningful to you. There comes a time somewhere after 50 when you realize home isn't just about where you live. It's about how you live. It's about who you're becoming and what you're ready to make space for. I'm Julie Ford, real estate expert and longtime wellness coach, and someone who's lived in a multi-generational home for the past decade while reinventing my life and my business. And this is Home After 50, a podcast about what it really means to find, shape, and come home to a new season, to a new home, to a new version of yourself. Whether you're thinking about upsizing, downsizing, moving in with family, or just asking bigger questions about what's next, you're in the right place. Each episode, I will share stories, insights, and real strategies for women redefining home and life on their own terms. Because after 50, home isn't just a place, it's a calling. And this time, it's yours. Welcome back to Home After 50. This year, I am doing something I've never done before, and something that I'm sure I've made fun of other people for doing in a kind way. We are doing a Christmas letter this year. We've sent Christmas cards for, oh my gosh, I think ever since Rod and I have lived together, maybe even before we were married. So 24 years, I think. Yeah, 24 years we've lived together. And we always send a Christmas card to many people. You know, our family is both from the US and Brazil, so we send updates via just a photo every year, but we've never sent the Christmas letter. And it's funny that I laugh about it because I actually enjoy receiving people's Christmas letters, but it'll be brief. It's just going on the back of the card. So if you're on my Christmas card list, expect a letter on the back of the photo this year. The reason we're doing it is just because so much has happened this year. I've mentioned before, both my kids graduated from college. Rod went and lived and worked in Spain for 5 months, and I completely reinvented my business and in many ways myself this year. And that got me thinking about this idea of the joys and the challenges of a fresh start after 50 in whatever way is meaningful to you. So for me, this year, it's really been about business, about having the time to really focus on business in a way I never have before, now that my kids are grown. And yesterday, I was actually speaking with one of my dearest friends, and I hope that she'll be a guest on the podcast sometime soon. Her name is Juli. And we were talking about how for both of us, we've really had a fresh start in many ways in our businesses this year. We're about the same age. I think Anjali's a couple years younger than me. And the reason that Anjali and I became friends many years ago is because our moms grew up together. They've been friends since the 4th grade. I think they were 9 when they met. And surprisingly, Anjali and I didn't become friends as kids because our moms just, their lives took them in different directions for a while, but they reconnected later in life and introduced Anjali and I to each other at a mother-daughter retreat, I think going on 16 or 17 years ago. And Anjali and I immediately connected and became dear, dear friends. And it's an interesting friendship because on the surface, we look like we have very, very different lives, and we do. You would think that we wouldn't have that much in common. I live in a big multi-gen house in suburbia in Massachusetts. Anjali lives in a cozy place in the mountains in Vermont. Anjali is an outdoor enthusiast, a yoga teacher, a coach. I am what would probably be nicely referred to as more of an indoor cat. She's definitely the outdoor enthusiast of us. I have kids. She doesn't. She's been a yoga teacher, a soul coach for many, many years. I've also been a coach, but worked more in business, in other people's businesses over the years. She's run her own business, and now I do too. But what's interesting is, so on the surface, it would seem like we don't have much in common at all besides our mother's lifelong friendship. But what we found is that we have a deep soul connection and also an interesting sort of parallel path that we follow. So this is what I mean by that, and this is going to connect to the fresh start after 50. It seems that every time Anjali and I get together for a great conversation, which is usually like a really deep soul level connected conversation, often over the phone because we live, like 4 hours away from each other, we find that we have been going through similar things that appear different on the surface, but at, a really deeply personal soul level are following very similar growth patterns. And this is one thing I love about our friendship. So yesterday we were talking and we hadn't spoken in a while. We were catching up, about our moms. Our moms are both 82. They both turned 82. They're like a month apart, I think, in age. And they both had some health problems. Right now, Anjali's mom, more serious health problems than my mom at the moment. And so we're both in this journey of being, adult daughters, supporting our aging moms. Anjali's dad died last year. My dad died 14 years ago. So our moms are each, on their own now. And we were talking about not just, the caring for our moms and the other things that we have going on, but the changes that we've both experienced in our business this year and how we've really found ourselves in a place where our businesses feel so much more aligned with our gifts, with our soul path, and with what the world needs from us right now than they ever have. And if you're a listener of the podcast, you know quite a bit probably about my business. But Anjali's business really transformed through grief coaching this year, which grew out of the loss of her dad and a dear, dear aunt a little while before that, and her mom's health challenges. And she has really found her path, and I'm so excited for her. And I'm also excited for all of the people who are going to benefit from her wisdom and her coaching. And we were just sharing how there's something about this age, being older than 50 and coming into a new place, whether it's in a home, a relationship, a business, whatever way you sort of reinvent yourself, open yourself to a new version of yourself or fresh start after 50, there's something about the age that we're at that I believe allows us to have a level of gratitude for that is so much deeper than anything I've ever experienced before. And I think that comes from perspective. I think that, we can look back over all of the versions of ourselves that we've been and all of the different ways that we wanted to find our calling and wanted to really make a contribution and have, our desires to serve line up with the needs of others. Being 56 and finally feeling like that is all happening to a level beyond anything I've ever experienced before is just so gratifying. I got an email yesterday from a woman that I spoke with earlier this week, and I'm going to find it. I'm going to keep it private, obviously, but I'm going to share with you just a little bit about what she said without, sharing her personal details. And I'm just sharing this because it brought me to tears of gratitude that I get to support people in their lives through working with them to try to create multi-generational homes and help them figure out. This woman is supporting her aging mom. She lost her dad recently, very much like Anjali's story, actually. And she's looking to create a multi-gen home with her family, with her adult son and her mom. And here was what she said to me that made me cry. Julie, I really enjoyed our conversation yesterday and feel much better after talking to you. It feels like this is a monumental process that I would never be able to conquer. I want to let you know that having you on my family's team, no matter what happens, makes me feel that we are moving forward and not scared straight. Thank you, and best regards. And that she signed her name. There's a little more detail in there that I won't share because it's personal to her. But to be able to, at this point in my life, reinvent my business and receive messages like that from people after I talk with them about their family situations. And, sometimes it's very complex, right? We're dealing with selling homes, buying homes, care of aging parents, combining finances with adult children, looking into financing possibilities, dealing with the legal structure of things, making sure there's an estate attorney, a financial planner, accessing resources that they may not have known were available to them. It's complicated, right? It can be very complicated. Just like dealing with grief and supporting people through grief can be really complicated. But having the opportunity to have a fresh start in our businesses and our lives at this point when we've been through a lot, right? We've lost parents, we've raised children, we've tried on many different versions of ourselves over the years, and it just feels amazingly gratifying to be able to bring all of that life wisdom and experience and care for other people into a business that aligns with what people actually need and be able to support them. But there are some challenges that come along with that as well for all of us. I know, when I was speaking with Anjali yesterday, we were talking about how not knowing how her mom's health is going to be leaves some questions up in the air about her schedule. And she prioritizes caring for her mom. And they also live, a state apart. So there's some complications there. I have another friend, another person I also hope to have on the podcast soon, who is an aging in place specialist, and she's dealing with the same thing. She's actually been living in a different state to care for her aging parents unexpectedly, earlier than she thought she would be. And she's had to figure that out too. She also is having a fresh start in her business. She's creating an amazing resource for families around aging in place. And I can't wait to share more with you about that when she's on the podcast, and she can tell us a little bit more about when it will be available. But she's dealing with the same thing, figuring out how to reinvent herself, her business, bring her gifts to the world, and at the same time show up for the people who matter most to her. Because I think we share that all in common, our care for the people that are closest to us. And also at this point in our lives, in our 50s, and maybe a little younger, maybe a little older, we have this realization that life is short. And I remember when I was helping to care for my dad when he was dying, and I was in my early 40s, and my kids were little. And of course I showed up, but I imagine now, 14 years later, I would show up in a very different way. And I'm not beating myself up over that at all. I had small children, I had less life experience, but I think there was not as much awareness of really how short the time can be and how quickly things can change. So navigating the unexpected demands on our time and our presence, while also pursuing our dreams and our goals, is something that I think all of us are grappling with at this age, at this point in life. And I know for me, I just need to give myself more grace sometimes. I need to recognize my own limits on my energy, which is different than it was, 10, 15, 20 years ago. I think I'm also gentler with myself now than I was then. I remember pushing myself physically like a lot harder, past the point of healthy, when I was in my 30s. And now it's a little bit easier to not do that. It's a little bit easier to say, you know what, I'm going to take a break. You know what, I just need to stop thinking right now or stop doing right now for a little while. And that can be hard to balance when we are balancing business and life and family and health. But I think that there is a wisdom that comes at this point in our lives that allows us to find that grace for ourselves a little bit more easily. But the other thing that I find is so critical to my well-being and my happiness at this time in my life is having friendships with other women who get it. And we don't need to have lives that all look the same. Like Anjali, our lives on the surface can look really, really different. And yet we can find friends on similar soul paths, similar journeys in life, on an emotional level, on a spiritual level, to support each other and to be there for each other and to be able to share these stories and just know that there's other people out there who understand what you're going through and how you may be feeling about it and the challenges that that brings. It changes everything to be able to have, for me, it's conversations with other women, with aging parents, maybe with young adult children, especially honestly for me, with other women who are growing businesses, who still have a lot of dreams and goals and ambitions about what they want to accomplish in their lives. That's energizing for me to talk to women who are in that place, but also supportive if they, like me, have relationship priorities, care priorities for other people in their lives, and recognize the grace that we all need to have for ourselves and each other at this time. So I hope by sharing that, it's maybe opened the door for you to think about the joys and the challenges of a fresh start after 50, whether it's in business and relationships, in your home situation, in your family, whatever way. Reinventing yourself and becoming more of yourself and pursuing your dreams after 50, whatever way that looks for you. I hope you know that our lives don't have to look like one another's on almost any level for us to understand each other and what that can look like to go through this process and support each other. And I hope that you, like me, have wonderful friends who are there for you, who you can pick up the phone and call at any time and just have someone who will listen and understand and support you on this path. And I think after 50, for me at least, that means more than it ever has. And I'm so grateful for my friends. Thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I'll see you next time. If today's topic resonated with you, I would love to hear from you. If you have a story of a fresh start or reinvention after 50, please share it with me. You can email me at julie@julieford.com. Just remember, no E on Julie. And if you would like to be a guest on the podcast and share your story of life and home after 50, please let me know. I would love to talk with you about it. And if you're someone who is living in or creating or just thinking about a multi-generational home, I hope you'll visit my website for resources, julieford.com, multi-gen. You can grab my free multi-generational living guide or my newly published complete multi-gen family toolkit to help you have a successful multi-generational home. Thanks so much for listening to Home After 50. If this episode resonated, I'd love it if you'd come hang out with me on Instagram. I am at It's Juli Ford, ITSJULIFORD. Just remember, no E on Julie. That's where I share ideas and behind the scenes about multi-generational living, real estate, business, and creating a next chapter that you love. And if you're curious about whether multi-generational living might be right for you, you can grab my free guide. It's in the link right in my Instagram bio. It's a simple way to get started imagining what's next. Because after 50, home isn't just a place. It's who we're becoming. See you next time.